All right, if I were to make this statement, I have a strong classroom management plan in place and can use it under pressure when students are continually off task. Where would you rate yourself on a fist of 5? So uh, I don't understand it at all, really struggle with it. 1, really need help. 2, could use more practice. 3, okay, you have a decent understanding. 4, pretty strong understanding. And 5, really strong with classroom management. Tomorrow, I'm actually giving a workshop on classroom management for our induction candidates. And this is actually a critical time in my mind, the first to second years of being a teacher, because you're really shaping the beliefs and habits and practices of the teacher that oftentimes lasts for years, decades even. So I'm so thankful that in our district we provide a lot of opportunity for our new teachers to receive training and support, and this is a part of one of those workshops. My name is Dr. Jeff Kim, and I am a middle and high school teacher, a 5Cs instructional coach, where I focus on helping teachers accelerate communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, civic lead for AUHSD, and also teacher educator. Now, as we think about classroom management, I think the way we frame it is so important. I don't really like that word classroom management, but it's just a word I'm using because everyone's familiar with it. I prefer language in CSTP, which says like creating and maintaining effective environments for student learning. I like the idea of first best instruction. I like the idea of universal design for learning, making the learning accessible for everybody. I like the idea of civic learning and engagement, where you're building a community, creating a social contract with one another, elevating student voice and giving them positive actions to take. I like this. I like the idea of equity pedagogy and culturally relevant pedagogy, tapping into the funds of knowledge of students. I like the idea of tier 1 intervention, supporting students with needs with the skills and capabilities that I can in my classroom first, capturing kids' hearts. I like the idea of 5Cs collaboration. So having the C of collaboration, helping students to grow in their collaboration, and every now and then having a chance to pause and norm set on what great collaboration looks like. So I'm talking about classroom management. Hopefully it's there's so much more to it, including creating that really positive environment where learning can happen. I'm not going to go into detail, but I love this little chart here that talked about a shifting from a pedagogy of compliance, or this side over here, to a pedagogy of agency. Pedagogy of compliance to a pedagogy of voice and agency. This feeling like students can have a voice, as students can be a part of the change and making change. And this happens when we have the student bringing in their knowledge, experiences, and beliefs into the classroom, and the teacher the same, creating this special third space where this classroom becomes its own kind of family, a unique place where learning can happen. And that can't happen with just the teacher, that can't happen with just the student, but it's really that combination. Now, one way to do this is, once again, I'm not going to go over community builders or icebreakers, but I like to do that at the very beginning of the school year. I think it's so wonderful to have fun with your students and get to know them. There's a lot of get to know you activities out there. But this is one that I haven't seen as much, which is building a social contract with one another. If you look at this picture here, it's a picture of 2 hands coming together, a symbol of an agreement, but then it's made up of all these like small little dots, but they're actually little people, the entire class coming together saying, hey, this is the kind of class that I want to learn in. And so there's 4 questions that help guide me in building a social contract for the class. How do you want to be treated by me, the teacher? How do you want to be treated by each other? How do you think I, the teacher, want to be treated by you? And how do you want to treat each other when there's a conflict? I'm not going to go through the entire process of building a social contract, but I do have an EdFamily video on that, which I'll share at the end of the video. So this is actually a social contract that one of my classes have. Like this might be the slide that they see when they come in. There's a clear driving question of what it is that we're accomplishing. We're accomplishing a virtual museum of the Chinese Museum, which highlights the accomplishments of medieval China during the Tang Song Yuanming dynasty. They're using we have a we can statement here, where they're using their sea of communication to present our artifact in a China virtual museum. There's a clear menu of events, and then there's a social contract that they created that we can look back at again. Now, as we think about this Tier 1 classroom management plan, this is what teachers use in the classroom. Let's focus on this green area first. All right, so first of all, the best classroom management is an engaging lesson. All right, that's the best classroom management there is. I even have a video on that. The best classroom management is an engaging lesson, and then constantly catching kids do the right thing. Now, when it comes to creating that engaging lesson, oftentimes it's helpful to work with others. You might have an instructional coach at your site, but even if you didn't, you could work with a colleague, or you could ask these questions yourself. So you might begin with, what is it that you're trying to focus on? Asking yourself, what are problems that you anticipate? How will you address these problems through your plans? How will you ensure success for all? Then someone comes in, has a chance to observe and take a look at what the teacher is doing, what the student is doing, and then afterwards, an opportunity to reflect, like what went well, where did students get stuck, what could I have done differently, what are some of my next steps? And oftentimes these cycles allow you to really build in that engagement. So if the barrier was engagement, you could really think about what kind of strategies that could be employed to increase that engagement. For example, back here, the Tang Song Yuanming dynasty, maybe if I give them a reading and worksheet, that's not as interesting. But if I make it like a Chinese museum that they're creating, or a virtual Chinese museum, maybe that's gonna increase the engagement level. So I think about what is gonna create a greater amount of engagement for our students. And that's part of our Tier 1 management plan, green. And then also, how do you catch kids doing the right thing? I think this is so important. So when you see kids doing the right thing, oftentimes that produces the best kind of effect. So whether they're taking their stuff out and writing down what it is that they're needing to write down, or they share a comment that you find it's valuable. If you were to pause the video and just ask yourself, how do you catch kids doing the right thing? I bet there's just so many things that you do, and what you want to do is you want to amplify that. Another thing that you have control over is strategic seating. So this was my classroom. So you can see, like, it's designed for collaboration. As you can see here would be like team 1, and then team 2 over here, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. And so you can see that it's designed for students to talk to each other and pair share with one another and work in teams and work in collaboration. Sometimes I'd have students come to the center where we do some type of cafe circle. I might say, okay, red chairs, come to the inner circle to kind of share out. Or when I taught an inclusion class, I had certain seats designated just at the very beginning of the school year, before I really knew who all the special needs and folks were, allocated to certain seats so that I would be able to really quickly identify the needs that those students had. All right, so that's all green, a very positive Tier 1 classroom management. Now let's move to, you have that engaging lesson, you caught them doing the right thing, you have that strategic seating in place, and still there continues to be an issue. By the way, by this point, 90% of your issues are solved. If you have that engaging lesson, most of the students are wanting to do what it is that you're doing in class. And then if you're catching kids doing the right thing, they're also wanting to work with you as well. So already you got so many students working with you. But let's continue on. Let's talk about it when it gets a little tougher. So here's another one. This one's proximity. So some teachers may just stand in one location in their classroom, and when they do that, that's tough. That's tough because some other students may feel like they're not being connected with. And so regularly walking around the classroom is very powerful. And then once again, why are you walking around? Well, the hope is you're walking around to catch them doing the right thing. So let's say Johnny is not doing the right thing, right? Then you say, oh, Matthew, great job doing this. Alex, great job doing this. And once you start praising the people around Johnny, then Johnny might actually get the hint and start doing whatever it is that Johnny needs to do. And then when Johnny does, what do? You're close enough to say, hey, Johnny, great job doing this. Also with proximity, usually, I don't have to make eye contact with that student that's off task. I could just be walking in that direction and looking elsewhere. So Johnny, we're over here. I could be looking over here, but kind of still moving in closer. Johnny knows exactly what's going on. And once the behavior solved, I don't even have to talk to Johnny, right? And once Johnny's on task, I could even praise Johnny for being on task. That's proximity. But maybe there's some of you saying, Dr. Jeff, there's still students out there. I have that engaging classroom. I'm catching them doing the right thing. I'm walking around class and still they're off task. They're on their phone or something like that, right? And so this is where I want to talk about questions that I got from Capturing Kids' Hearts. 4 questions. And I think it's very important for us to kind of say these 4 questions. Okay, here we go. What are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? What are you going to do about it? I know it doesn't seem like when I say those questions they're that powerful, but in class it's super powerful. So for example, let's say Johnny's looking at his cell phone when we're supposed to be doing something else, like working on a project or a group project, right? And of course I did all that, right? The engaging lesson, the catching kids doing the right thing, all that stuff. Then now I can move to this role play, asking those 4 questions. Johnny, what are you doing? And then at that moment, Johnny might immediately put away his phone, right? Just by you asking the question. And if Johnny does, great job. And then you say, oh, thanks, Johnny. Appreciate that, right? But I know some of you are thinking, Dr. Jeff, I have some students, even if I ask, what are you doing? They would say something like, I don't know, I'm just checking messages from my friend. It's really important, right? Something like that. Then you move to the second question. What are you supposed to be doing? And they might say then, well, I'm supposed to be working with my project. Are you doing it? They're going to say yes or no. Usually they say yes. What are you going to do about it? And then grudgingly, they usually move on and take care of that. Now, in the induction workshop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give teachers the opportunity to go in breakout rooms and maybe role play this out depending on the time. We could use a cell phone example. But then you're saying, Dr. Jeff, like, what if after you do this, it just keeps on happening again and again? Still, it's difficult. This is still all under Tier 1 classroom management. You got the green, the engaging lesson, you got the 4 questions, you got the proximity, and now maybe I would move to a short consultation, a short meeting. So I say, hey, tell me a little bit about what's going on. Everything okay? Because maybe if the student is distracted on the phone, like maybe there's a reason for that. And I've regularly found out when there's students that seem apathetic or disruptive or difficult, very rarely is it like when I hear their story, do I leave thinking, oh, that wasn't a good reason. I leave feeling with a lot of compassion for that student as I listen to that story. And I think it makes a difference for that student to hear me as the teacher, hear what they have to say too. So they'll say something, and then what I'll say is, what I hear you saying is this. Okay, and then I might go back to this, so what are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? What are you gonna do about it? And after hearing their story, they might be more inclined to be in agreement with you. And then you just say, hey, is everything good? Are we good? Everything okay? And then you're good and then proceeds at that point. That's kind of in the red though. You've given that student a lot of chances, right? You've created that engaging lesson. You've caught that student doing the right thing. You walk close to that student, proximity. You gave the 4 questions. You've done the consultation. So now that's a lot of different things that have happened already. And so I'm going to talk about this red area, but once again, now we're moving to the 1%. 1%. So out of all the different engagements I'm having in class, typically it's very positive. And if there's any disruption, it's usually handled by the green, and if not, then by the yellow. But I'm only going to the red because, I bet there's teachers out there with questions, and I want to talk about the 1% now, right? So the first strategy I gave was the consultation. Are we good? Then I have an activity where it's something similar, but it's more of an apology letter. Let me see if I can get that link open. And so in this apology letter, the student talks about, it's kind of more of a written form, what happened, What were you thinking at that time? Who has been affected by what you have done? In what way? What do you think you need to do to make this thing right? What will I do differently next time? And once again, this time to think about it is so important for the student. This metacognition, once again. Sometimes we think, wow, that student that talked to me in such a rude way, it was like super intentional and deliberate, very disrespectful, and it's very easy to take it personal, but oftentimes it's more of a reaction. They weren't really really trying to be intentional about that. There probably was something else happening. So this is giving them a chance to use their prefrontal cortex and slow down and talk a little bit about what happened, and maybe you're going to get that story behind the story once again. And once again, this is happening not in front of all the other students, where it can create a response that's not good because everyone's watching, right? But it's more of a private kind of thing, where they have a chance to write that think sheet. And then beneath that think sheet, if you wanted, is an apology letter where they have a chance to apologize and feel good knowing that you have a good relationship with them, that you want to make it right. And then I got these after school consultation as well. So once again, it's pretty much going to be handled with everything that we talked about. But maybe some of you are like, Dr. Jeff, I got this one student now that just I've done all this and still it's difficult. So this is beyond your ability, maybe handle just by yourself. So you want to partner with the caregiver. It could be the parents, guardians, older brother, sister, whoever, right? And so it might begin with like a parent contact, like a phone or email. Hopefully you have a lot of other emails that you sent way early, way in advance, about how positive things are in the class, the great stuff that you're doing. So when they think of you, they're thinking positive things, like this is a fun teacher, this is a caring teacher, this is a teacher that cares about my student. Like hopefully that's the first impression that they got already. So when you come and share a little bit about a concern, they're going to be more inclined to be open to listening to what you have to say. It'd be like it's going to lower that affective filter for them too, because I'll tell you this, parents, whether they show it or not, they love their kids so much, and if you begin with something abrasive, it's natural for a lot of parents to get defensive, right? So you might begin with the compliment sandwich, like begin with a compliment. And I tell this to my students too when they're giving peer feedback to one another. But anyways, you begin with a compliment, then you might talk about what needs improvement, and then compliment, right? And this might be the short parent contact and the short email, right? Where you just leave a message on the phone. This is not a parent conference. So very short. And oftentimes, once again, this is enough. And there are years that I go through where this is all I do, all the way up to here, where I just leave that parent an email contact, right? But maybe some of you are like, Dr. Jeff, I still have some additional students who may need something more. That wasn't enough. I called the parents already, and it's not having the desired effect. Now, this is where, I'm going to want a parent conference now, where we're going to be meeting me, the student, and the parent, and or caregiver, guardian. And oftentimes when I've seen teacher, parent, counselor, whatever meetings, everyone's going around and just talking about how, because usually by this point, it's not just your class, right? There's probably other things happening in different classes. And I feel bad for the student a little bit at times because, so many, that person's getting so much negative feedback all at once, but at the same time, I'm not totally feeling bad, because it's reasonable and understandable why the frustration is there as well, because all these teachers have done all these other things, right? But once again, if the goal is transformation of the behavior, right, then you got to partner with the caregiver, because once again, this might not be something that you're able to do on your own, through your own conversations. So oftentimes what I'll do is, just like I want to get to know the student story, I'm going to want to know the parent story as well. So I'm just going to ask questions like, hey, can you help me understand your family and how things are going with your child at home, right? Oftentimes they'll share things, and oftentimes there's very difficult things going on. It could be, work related, could be relationship related, it could be other challenges that are going on, and it's just difficult to. When I think about some of the challenging things that our students face, I'm like, man, I'm just amazed you just made it out to school. How did you make it out to school. Sometimes I wonder that, because when I hear some stories, I'm like, wow, that's so difficult what's happening in your life experiences, that I'm just amazed you made it out to school. And then continuing on, because the child does need to follow the expectations in the class, and maybe it's not just your teacher expectations, right? But maybe it's the social contract that you guys develop. But begin with the parent, though, the caregiver, the guardian, right? What are your expectations for your child to follow the teacher's direction in the classroom? What does that look like to you? So ask the parent what they think are the expectations for their own child while the child is there, right? And I've never had a parent say, you know what, I don't think they should listen to the teacher. I haven't heard that before, Now, I think I've seen some parents that have maybe lost some trust with schools and that particular teacher, right? And sometimes that can happen, and that might have been from something before, but usually their expectations are to follow the teacher's directions, right? Yeah, you come to school, you need to do your work. That's oftentimes what I hear from parents. And then now the child is hearing this, and then I'm asking, what are your expectations for your child to complete classwork in the class, or if there's homework. And I find that the parents' expectations and my expectations are pretty much exactly the same. So once again, here we go. An engaging classroom, catching the kids doing the right thing, strategic seating. That's the green. The yellow is proximity, the 4 questions. Then if I've done all that, the consultation, the short consultation, apology letter, and think sheet to give some more think time, maybe an after-school consultation, some positive parent contacts, and then maybe that conference, which I just talked about. And then let's say you're just repeatedly doing this, and there are many years I have not given a discipline referral because I'm going through this process, right? Yeah, but that process that is there for you, the discipline referral. But it's not the first go-to, right? I mean, you've seen what I did, right? I did all these other things before going to the discipline referral. Now, each school is going to have a little different discipline flow matrix, but usually schools are expecting you to implement some kind of tier 1 intervention. These are some great examples of tier 1 intervention. Each time you do these things, you just log it into your learning management system. For us in the district that I use, it's Aries, and I would log it into visits and said, hey, I had a chance to have a short consultation with this student or whatever, or have a parent meeting. And at that point, once I have a couple of those logged in, and if I needed to send a referral, I know I'm going to get some really great support from administration. So I know I kind of gave you a lot at once. And so this is a part of this, once again, induction workshop that I'm giving tomorrow. But if you're kind of wanting to go a little bit slower through this, I have like a number of different videos on classroom management, which kind of break it up into different pieces, like how to have strong classroom management, part 1, catching kids doing the right thing, letting kids make the rules, that's the social contract basically, the strong classroom management strategy, when do you not want to talk to a student, because there's times you don't want to talk to a student, you try being nice, now what, and then the 5 steps to making a positive parent contact. You can click on these videos, and another teacher that I know does this. They kind of watch a video, like when I shared these 6 videos, that what the teacher did was they watched the video and then just kind of reflected on their practice, and then watch like a different video every couple of days. And maybe that's what you want to do. I wouldn't, you realize that you're thinking in your mind, man, I really got to do something about my classroom management, but I don't know where to begin. Maybe a good beginning point is just watching one of these videos where I talk about some of the things that I already discussed in this induction workshop, but a little bit more in detail. And you just reflect on it and think about your own practice and think about what one next step you can make, and then watch the next video and so forth, and step by step improve your classroom management. Also, beyond classroom management, because a part of classroom management is the engaging lesson. If you're interested in other topics like civic engagement, project-based learning, ethnic studies, grading for equity, national board, certified teacher, educational leadership, if there's any of these other topics, I have a lot of other topics on this EdFamily YouTube channel. It's at www.youtube.com/c/EdFamily. I also have a Twitter account at EdFamily Tweets. And let's kind of conclude with this. After kind of hearing a little bit of what I shared, I want you to take a moment to kind of pause and think, what are you going to put into place out of the things that we talked about? Like, is there something that you really want to work on? Is it that engaging lesson that you're wanting to focus in on? And so you're going to work with your instructional coach and really think about how to enhance the engagement. Is that the area that you're thinking about? That's actually catching the most students, really. Or how about catching kids doing the right thing? Is that what you want to focus on? Is it the 4 questions? Like, rather than stop this or stop that, I just ask you, hey, what are you doing? Are you supposed to be doing it? Are you doing it? What are you going to do about it? Or is it just having the handout of the apology letters just ready to go in the event that you do all these steps, which you're already doing, but you just needed that one extra step? Or maybe now that it's kind of February, you're thinking, I've done all these things so many times, and I need to have that parent contact, and maybe it's that conference that you need to have. What is that one step that you need to take? And so if I were to ask you now, like, I have a strong classroom management plan in place and can use it under pressure when students are continuing off task. I don't know where you were at when I first asked you that question at the very beginning, whether you were at a 0, 1, 2, or so forth. But I hope after reflecting, you're kind of thinking, you know what, I'm from a 1, you're a 2, or from a 2, you're a 3, or from a 3, you're a 4. I hope that's something that has happened for you. And if so, I'm so happy. Once again, thank you so much for your leadership and service in the classroom, and for having done so much already and wanting to grow even more, also in the area of classroom management. EdFamily is all about helping students to find out what they're good at so that they can do good with it. So if this video helped you to grow in your classroom management, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If this video gave you an idea of how you could grow in your classroom management, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you like some of those topics that are here and you're like, I would want to grow in this area, first of all, there's a lot of videos already there, but I'm adding about another video per week. So feel free to subscribe as well. This is Dr. Jeff from EdFamily signing out.